Good afternoon, Rotarians, guests, and friends on Zoom. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Cincinnati's second meeting of January 2022. Thank you for each of you for modifying your schedule to join us at this virtual meeting. Thank you as well for your patience as we make modifications and changes during this time to have our meetings remotely. A special thanks goes to the chairperson of our virtual greeters, Marita Wade. Marita has just selflessly taken time away from her job, her personal life to plan for and to make sure that she's on Zoom greeting our members. Let's give Marita Wade a round of applause. Again, thank you so very much for being here. We will begin our program today with the national anthem, followed by the invocation and four-way test, led by Jane Burkett.
Love the national anthem, it always gives me chills. Please pray with me. Dear Lord, as we gather here today as members and friends of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community. Keep in mind the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Help us to focus on the objectives we have for this world: peace, tranquility, a true brotherhood of man, freedom from hunger, from oppression, from sickness, the freedom to choose our own destiny. Let us reaffirm our commitment to our simple four-way test for all we do and support. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? We reaffirm our commitment to high ethics in all we do, and we give thanks for all our blessings, opportunities, responsibilities that befall us as Rotarians. Today, with optimism, renewed energy, and a commitment to service, please, Lord, help us so to serve. Amen.
Thank you very much, Jane. Before we get to our next announcement, I would like to showcase one of our programs that we have on hands-on service. Although we're not meeting in person right now because of things that are going on in the community and out of an abundance of caution, many Rotarians are working behind the scenes as we look forward to our time reconvening back together the 1st of February. One of those such groups is the Hands-on Service Committee, the Fruit Bowl Project. As you will see on the slide here that Mike has put up, the Fruit Bowl Project volunteers are listed. You can see the names there. Our chairperson of the Fruit Bowl Committee is Pat Neal Miller, and the other committee members, Andy Magenheim, Jeff Weir, Stephanie Bird, Lynn Smith Magliera, Molly Reidel, Hux Miller, Russell Smith, Mary Ronan, Ed DeVoyd, Kelly Mahan, Bob McElroy, Michael Schatzman, Ryan Miller, Meredith McCain, Shayna Stiver, Bill Stilley, Brett Labar, and myself. That's a huge committee, and these members have been working together tirelessly behind the scenes. That's just one example. And on the next slide, you will see that under hands-on service, under the direction of Director Bill Stilley and Chairperson Dr. Hux Miller, Pat Neal Miller has been sponsoring, actually been our liaison with the Rotary Club and the St. Joseph School, and she has already booked out all of our deliveries of fruit and vegetables to the School of St. Joseph's. And as you can see, we have been delivering fruit to them and vegetables from January 5th, and we have every spot taken with other people's names on the list all the way through March. So let's give Pat Neal Miller and her committee a round of applause. That's just one example. We have a lot of great programs that we're planning for and really looking forward to meeting again face-to-face in February and March. And with that, we have an announcement by Amanda Forsey. Amanda?
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I wanted to take a couple minutes to update you on what the women in Rotary are up to, as well as a plug for the corporate member roundtable. Next Thursday will be our Women in Rotary Committee meeting after lunch. It will be held via Zoom. I would love for you to join us, as we really could use some help getting your recommendations and some support to finalize our schedule for the rest of the year. We want to continue with our annual movie night, which has been a great hit in the past for all Rotarians to join us. So specifically, we're looking for someone to host this event. I'm kind of thinking out of the box here. If you have a nice outdoor space, perhaps we could show the movie outside when the weather warms up. And another event we'd like to get together is a Women's Wellness Day. I'm thinking yoga, some tips on how to de-stress and declutter, breathing exercises. I know that we have Rotarians who are yoga instructors and perhaps a life coach. So if you're interested in helping to make this event come to life, please get in touch with me and hopefully join us for our committee meeting next Thursday. Additionally, I'd like to invite you to our night at Richter and Phillips on February 3rd from 5:30 to 7:30. This will be a great event. We'll have light bites and drinks, a unique shopping experience. And if you RSVP, you'll be entered to win a $200 gift card from Richter and Phillips. It was very nice of them to throw in. We'll have that drawing at 6:15 that evening, and you must be present to win. It's going to be a great time. Additionally, I'd like to encourage you, if you are an individual member and you work for a company, to bring up the conversation about a corporate membership. I'm so glad that I did at Heritage Bank. This has been really fun to experience Rotary with my coworkers, and we're all really excited to be engaged on a corporate level. One of those benefits is the corporate roundtable. It's just as it sounds. You get to meet with fellow corporate members and talk about maybe the challenges you're having, get input on how to overcome them, and celebrate successes together. So it's just another great benefit of our Rotary Club. I encourage you to look into that, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself, Amanda Forsey, and my contact information is in the directory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Amanda has been doing an outstanding job with the committee, the Women in Rotary Committee, and in other areas of our club. So thank you again, Amanda. Announcements. We have several members who have been celebrating birthdays last week and up through to this week as well. We'd like to wish them a happy birthday. January 18th, we had 3, Bruce Brandstetter, Joseel Ehrlich, Bob Walter. January 19th, Sparkle Worley and Lori Nokel. January 22nd, John McCain. And January 23rd, our speaker of the day, Gary Walton. Let's give them a round of applause and happy birthday. Say happy birthday to them. Next, the 2022 Jefferson Awards. We're very fortunate to have the Jefferson Award as one of our community service projects at the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. This is our 17th year of our club coordinating this award in Cincinnati. It showcases outstanding volunteerism in the greater Cincinnati area. Some of the past recipients who've been recognized as the Jefferson Award winners have been Matthew 25 Ministries, Crayons to Computers, the Free Store Food Bank, The Cure Starts Now, the Dragonfly Foundation, La Soup, 1 in 5, Lawn Life, Cincinnati Cares, and last year's winner, our own Katie Knitsu of Found Village. We're really excited to be a part of the Jefferson Awards, and we're looking forward to our upcoming meeting, which is March 24th. We will host the annual Jefferson Awards with Bob Herzog of Channel 12 as our MC, and he will announce the winner from the 3 finalists that have been chosen, that will have been chosen by that time. We do need your help, however, in assisting in making or seeking nominations for the award. Past non-winning applicants can be renominated. Nominations are live, so please, as I mentioned to you before with the announcements, please read your e-raise. Our office staff, Christy and Sarah, update those every week. So please make sure you read those. There's a link, a direct link to the nomination forms that are live right from the e-raise. The deadline for the nominations the deadline is February 11th. And if you have any additional questions about the Jefferson Awards, please contact Doug Adams, Allie Hubbard, or Bill Shula. Just to give you a little spice of what is upcoming in February and March, some of our upcoming meetings that we're planning for. February 3rd, we will have Marcus Marjoram of the Contemporary Art Museum. February 10th, we have Joe Rudmiller and Tasha Stapleton of 3CDC. February 17th is an exciting time for us because we have our club assembly. And that's a great time, especially for new members, to come to see what specific kinds of things are happening in our clubs and how we are working in the community. It will be our program where we will showcase what we're doing and have done so far this year. Also show some of the vision of where we're going in the future. February 24th, we will have the 4-way speech contest. March 3rd, Jeff Bearding of FC Cincinnati. March 24th, again, as I mentioned, we will have the Jefferson Awards. So there are some great programs that we're planning for behind the scenes. Family of Rotary, please continue to keep past President Ron Ott and his family in your thoughts and prayers if they mourn the loss of Ron's wife, Lynn. Also, please keep Glenn and Camille Scherzinger and their family in your thoughts and prayers with the recent passing of their son-in-law, Chad. We have one more virtual meeting, and we will be back together in person February 3rd. So our next meeting next week, we will have Sherry Hughes, former WCPO meteorologist, and who is now the Director of Strategic Communication, Engagement, and spokesperson of Cincinnati Cancer Advisors. Next, we will have the program introduction for today by past President Al Conscious. Al?
Thank you, President Melinda. Today we're very pleased to welcome fellow Rotarian Gary Walton. Gary is, among other achievements in his former life, he has trained 3,400 printing students at Cincinnati State. Currently, he has thrown himself into a museum project for as the founder of the Cincinnati Type Print Museum. I was interested, being the precise guy that he is, I was interested in the way he wrote his bio. He said, in the first 3/4 of my life, I trained these 3,400 students. And in my 4th quarter, I'm the founder of the Type and Print Museum. And I thought that was pretty cool that he was able to actually figure out what the 4th quarter of his life is in terms of years and so on. Have you thought of maybe overtime or extra innings or?
I'm hoping to go to overtime.
Okay, all right. So when people ask me if I have lived in Cincinnati all my life, my standard response is not yet. So with that, I'm looking forward to an interesting program from Gary. Please welcome fellow Rotarian Gary Walton.
Thank you. Once again, I bring greetings from the good people of Price Hill. And as mentioned, I am Gary Walton. I'm the founder of the Cincinnati Type and Print Museum in Price Hill. As was mentioned, I had the honor, and it really was an honor, to teach for 45 years at Cincinnati State and prepare young men and women for the printing industry. But I'll never forget my first year. I was given a test. And as I walked around the classroom, I noticed there was a young man had his wedding band on the wrong hand. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to be embarrassed by his classmates if somebody notices this. So I got down low and I whispered, "Hey, bud, you got your wedding band on the wrong hand." He said, "I know, I married the wrong woman." Well, I don't know if he married the wrong woman or not, but this I do know. I made a right decision about 9 months ago to join the Cincinnati Rotary Club, and every one of you also made that right decision. And by being a part of this association, you have decided that you want to be a better person, that you want to increase your wisdom and your knowledge, and that is a very good thing. So I commend you for making that effort to use your resources to become part of that. I wish somebody would have told me about this when I was 30. I think about how much I gained the last 9 months and how much would I have gained if I had been a member for 30 years like some of you in this room have. So I want to just give that announcement. Last November, a good friend, Leslie from Valerie Studios, came down and offered to give the museum a free video that would talk about the 3 pillars that we stand on. And he does a very good job. So with that, Mike, if you'd be so kind, turn on video and let the folks see the free video that Les produced for us.
My favorite part about the museum is watching people's faces light up when they pull that piece of paper off the press and see the actual ink on the paper. They are so excited about that. Just seeing the joy that they created that. So I am Gary Walton, and I am the founder of the Cincinnati Type and Print Museum. I want people to come here and to play. That's why this museum, everything works. I don't want to be a museum where you just look and see things. I want you to actually get your hands involved and enjoy the gift of printing. We want to preserve the history of printing in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati has a rich history of printing. You just have this feeling that you're doing something worthwhile. Printing has changed lives all through its history. The Reformation happened because of printing. Gutenberg's Bible enabled thousands of people to be able to read Scripture and begin to think, wait a minute, is this right? What do we believe? We want this to be a place for artists to come and to experience letterpress printing because it is a huge art form now. And we want them to come and actually create images and create those images and put them up on our walls. We're working with Block Ministries. We are giving men and women a second chance. And these are men and women, most of them who are heroin addicts or have a prison record, to be able to give them skills that they need to get really good jobs in the printing field. Printing is huge. We mail to over 800 print companies in this area. So it's huge. And give them job skills and place them on the jobs. And there's plenty of design people out there, but there's a shortage, a huge shortage of technicians to be able to run the computers to make the machines do what they do. And so we're hoping to fill that need out there. One of the things that I like to say, and I've been saying it my entire life, is that life revolves around print. We don't even realize it, but it's all around us. You're carrying money in your pocket, which is printed. You're carrying credit cards, which are printed. A lot of times the fabric that you're wearing is printed. When you're actually using your computer, you're still using old technology. You're referring to your types as point sizes and picas. When you come today, you get to see our Franklin press, which we believe was created somewhere in 1860 here in Cincinnati. And as time moved on, someone said, hey, what if instead of casting one letter, we cast a whole line? And so one of the machines that was created is called a Ludlow, where we can actually now take the molds and put them in a we call a composing stick, and then cast an entire line at one time. When you come to the Cincinnati Type and Print Museum, you get the experience of putting an ink image onto a piece of regular paper or handmade paper and feel that experience that millions of people throughout the world have of seeing an image on paper and feel the chill go through your body as you see that image that you created.
if by any chance you know less, tell him you did a good job. I thought that was very good. We're going to focus today on pillar number 1 and number 3. Number 1, the history, and number 3, the work that we're doing in training. But before we do that, I got to make a change. My grandmother, who I dearly loved, dearly loved her, she had a huge impact in my life. And she said to me, Gary, whenever you get in front of a group of folks, you always have to wear a coat. And so I have done that for my grandmother. But now, I want to be remembered like Ben Franklin. By the way, I don't know if you knew this or not. His birthday was last Monday. I want to be remembered as an American printer. I don't know if you realize this or not. Ben Franklin, who we know him for so many things, inventor, great politician, a great diplomat. He basically won the war by his relationship with France and getting the Frenchmen involved in that. But he would tell you, if he was here today, that none of that would have happened if it wasn't for the fact for the first 40 years of his life, he was in the printing industry. And he made a ton of money. And by the way, printers don't listen to when they just don't say they make money. We make money. They made a ton of money. So much so that he did something unusual, which is he retired. And the next 40 years of his life, that's when he did all the other great things that we know him for. When he was in his 80s, he decided that on his tombstone, all he wanted was Ben Franklin, the date, and then the words, the printer. And so I'm coming into a profession that is, I'm standing on just some tremendous great people. When you think of printing, the question I say to people is, where would printing be if it wasn't for this man? This is Johann Gutenberg. And as you saw in the video, his great accomplishment was he invented movable type. Individual letters that you could put together spell words. The words can be put together to spell sentences, sentences, paragraphs, paragraph pages, and make complete books. So this was 1450. So let me ask you a question. In the 11th century and the 10th century, did we have books? If printing isn't going to take place to 1450, did we have books in the 11th century? And the answer to that is you're right, is correct. We did. And these fellows made the books. These are called scribes, which was a high position back in the 11th and 12th century, high position. Okay? And look at the robe that he is wearing and how nice it is. Okay? He was paid well. Okay? And all day long, he would sit at a table with an elevated board, and he would have the page of the Holy Bible on his left side, and on his right side, he would actually inscribe that Bible. Okay? At Ball State University, not very far from here, in their rare book collection, they actually have a Bible that was printed by hand. And it is an amazing thing to look at. You would swear it was printed. Matter of fact, Gutenberg, when he prints the first Bible, he's going to make it look like one done by a scribe. Now think for a minute. Just one column. How long would it take you to create one column? And you got to go slow because you can't make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, let's say you make a mistake on the very last line, you got to throw that whole thing out. So you were careful. Okay? You're going to work for about 30 years as a scribe. That's about your lifespan. And if you're lucky, you might get 3 or 4 copies of the Holy Bible. The Holy Bible in the medieval times was valued somewhere around $60,000 in our time. A huge amount. So when Gutenberg decides to print, you print the thing that's going to make you the most money, the Bible. Okay? Matter of fact, just so you realize this, you've been lied to for the last 150 years. You're always being told the best-selling book is this, this, this. That's a lie. The Bible, for the last 150 years, has outsold everything. This year alone, we will print 200 million copies of the King James Bible because that's not in copyright. Okay, 200 millions. We make vast amount of money printing Bibles. One of my favorite movies is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And the Cyclops in that movie is like, he sells Bibles. And he makes this statement, he goes, there are vast amounts of money in printing the Bibles. And he was telling the truth. People thought it was a joke, but he was telling the truth. Many printers have become extremely wealthy by printing the Bible. Still today, it's the most expensive book to buy. If you would like to have a copy of the Gutenberg Bible printed on presses today, you can do that. There's a company in San Francisco called Arian Press, and for $12,000, they will print you a Bible the way Gutenberg printed it by letterpress printing. And every year, they sell out. Now, that's a company I want to work for, So Gutenberg comes on the scene. He creates movable type. In 5 years, remember the scribe could do 2 to 3 copies? In 5 years, he produces over 200 copies of the Holy Bible. I mean, just incredible. Freaked everybody out. Was he happy with this new invention? No, he's out of a job. He was not happy. Matter of fact, he writes letters to the Pope talking about how printers are of the devil. And we're going to create things that are going to destroy females' minds and talk about things we shouldn't be talking about, and we're going to destroy society, and that we must burn at the stake all printers. Luckily, they didn't listen to them. By the time that gentleman actually who wrote that died, there were over 200 printing facilities in Europe. Again, going back, in 1450, we believe there's 55,000 books in all of Europe. All of Europe. 20 years after Gutenberg's invention, there's over 2 million books. So the printing press enabled mass communication. Where would technology be? Where would the church be if it wasn't for the printing industry? Okay? If it wasn't for the printing industry, you would have to reinvent with every generation the wheel. You would have to explain that to that. But the beauty of print, it enables us to record information and pass information on so we can get wiser and smarter every day. This is Foos, the man in the nice outfit is Foos. He's the one who backed all this. Being a typical finance guy, he all cared about was money, 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 money. Gutenberg was an artist. All he cared about was how good it looked, how good it looked, how good it looked. It actually took him 3 times with 3 different typefaces before he finally found one he liked, which meant he spent a lot of money. And Foos wasn't happy about that. So he eventually kicks him out of the business before the Bible is even printed, or it's half printed. He kicks him out of the business. And this man who's on the press, that's Peter Schaefer, he takes over. And I sometimes wonder if Foos didn't know all along that he was going to do this. Because he brings Peter Schaefer on and he says to Gutenberg, train this guy so that he knows everything that goes on. And he did that. And then Foos kicks him out. Okay? Then one day, Schaefer's going, when's my turn? When is Foos going to kick me out? And he does a very smart thing. It's actually recorded that Foos had a homely daughter. And so he marries Foos's homely daughter, had 2 kids, and he's set. I mean, you can't kick out your son-in-law and his wife and his 2 kids. He's set. And of all 3 of them, Peter goes on to live a very full life. He actually opens up 10 other print shops, and he does extremely, extremely well. And that's kind of a quick history of printing and where it is today. Realize the printing industry is extremely strong. In the next 10 years, something new is going to come on the market called printing electronics. Your phone in the next 5 to 10 years will be printed on a printing press. And here is Apple's research of that. What we have here are 50 phones on a piece of paper. Everything that's in green, everything that's in black has actually been put on, but everything else in green and the other colors was printed. So we're printing circuit boards. We're printing batteries. Batteries are just layers of materials. Some of you are old like me. You remember when the battery was huge, and now the battery is real thin. It's just layers of chemistry. Okay, we're going to print batteries, antennas, solar panels. We'll eventually be able to print solar panels so cheap that everything will have a solar panel on it, and solar energy will become huge, and all that because of the printing industry. And so that's pillar number 1 of what we stand for at the museum. I want to talk a little bit about pillar number 3. And what I'd like to do is actually tell you one of the stories that we tell our young ladies and young men who come into our programs. And I refer to it as the bucket story, okay? And I say to the students, you ever get a chance to go to New England and go crabbing for buckets? Or crabbing for crabs? No. I said, what's interesting, you get on a boat, you take your bucket, you go out, you lift up the traps, you take a crab, you put him in the bucket. Naturally, when he's in the bucket, he wants to get out, but it's so far up, he can't get out. And then you just keep layering them on there, and eventually the crabs on the bottom are being held down by the crabs on top. And we're going to fill this bucket up to about 5 inches to the top. We're not going to put a lid on it. We're not going to put a lid on it. We're just going to take this, slide it up against the wall of the ship, and go on, keep crabbing. Now think about that for a minute. Freedom for the crab is 4 inches up and 4 inches over the rail and into the water. Freedom is 4 inches up and 4 inches over, and they're free. And so naturally, the crabs at the top, they try to get out. And they put their claw on that rim, and they pull themselves up, and then immediately a crab inside pulls them back. And every time he tries to get out, another one pulls him back. Everything's good. And they never need to put a lid on because the crabs hold them back. And we say, what crabs are holding you back? You know? It's a proven fact that successful people are successful because of their top 10 friends. Take anybody, take yourself, take your top 10 friends, go home tonight, write down your top 10 friends, write down their salaries, add it up, divide it by 10, that's your salary. So if you're in a bucket with people who are in poverty, there's no hope for you. But at the museum and at Block Ministry, what we do is we get in the bucket, okay? And we are wiser, have education, more finances, and we get in the bucket with them. And we actually live in that community. And we then, now that we're in the bucket, can actually pull them out of that bucket, okay? I'm happy to say after 5 years of existence, we've trained over 30 young ladies and 12 men. And I'm very proud of that are no longer on the, I get emotional, sorry. No longer in that bucket anymore, okay? In closing, going back to my grandmother, she said, Gary, whenever you leave, you gotta leave a positive thought. So here's your positive thought. Always keep a positive attitude and press on. Get it? Press on, press on. Press on to your calling. You all have a calling. You all have a calling. If you don't know what your calling is, get off by yourself somewhere and think about that. You all have a calling. Find your calling and keep pressing on and doing that until you're in the ground. Thank you. President Melinda, would you come up and see if there's any questions?
Thank you very much. Let's give Gary a round of applause. Thank you so much, Gary, for the history of printing and the printing industry and telling some personal stories of yours. And we are very happy that you decided to become a Rotarian with the Rotary Club of Cincinnati 9 months ago. You are never slow or short on words, and so we are very glad you were able to extend your experience, your skills and knowledge of the printing industry with us today. Thank you so much. On Zoom or either in person here, there are a few of us who are on the program. Since we are virtual, are there any questions that you have for Gary? Okay, I have one question here, Gary. How did Cincinnati get such a large concentration of printers?
Very good question, very good question. In the 1830s, large groups of immigrants were coming from Germany. Now, these immigrants were unique in that they were skilled laborers. And again, when you look at the history of printing, it's all Germans. Germans basically created everything. And so they come into this country, they get on boats, and they come down the Ohio River. As soon as they get to Cincinnati, they literally start crying because the Ohio River looked like the Rhine River, the Seven Hills looked like the Seven Hills in Germany, and they started crying, okay? And then an amazing thing happened. They started hearing people speaking their language. Someone in German saying, come here if you're from the mother country. And so they came, and they had a whole system set up where they put people in housing and found out what they did for a living and started businesses. So 120 years ago, Cincinnati was the second largest printing center because of our German heritage. Also because we have large chemical manufacturing in Cincinnati, two very large paper operations, one in Chillicothe, one in Dayton. So paper and ink was very inexpensive. We had a great labor force. And all those things led up to being able to produce printing at a very low cost. And still today, most of the printing that we do in Cincinnati is not for us. It's for all over the United States. We are the 11th largest printing center in the United States. That means we're size-wise number 50. And so there's 40 some cities that are bigger than we are, but we do more printing.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. The next question is, all the equipment in the museum, are parts still being produced for them?
One of the beauties of 3D printing. It's sometimes difficult to find a part that was made 150 years ago, but with 3D printing, we can, and actually having 3D printers that produce metal products, we can actually produce parts that we need. Because printing was so huge, there's still tons of equipment out there that you can get. I have a warehouse full of equipment, so I need to expand my building to be able to have what I call toys that are in my warehouse to get them into the museum. So finding equipment and parts is not a problem right now.
Another question is, how do you bridge the gap and help the younger generation understand the importance of printing itself and how it relates to current day?
So for the last 45 years, I've been trying to get young people to consider printing as a career choice, and have not done very well, and I've tried everything. And my thought of the museum was more for fun, but then I realized This is a way of getting young people into the museum, and then when they start playing with the presses and they start making woodcuts and they start printing, as we say, the ink gets in their blood. And then they'll have this passion, especially when we start talking about the things of the future. I really believe, I really am hoping that the museum someday will produce something like 60, 70 employees for the printing industry. That's my ultimate goal.
Thank you. The next question is, how is your museum, how are you funded?
About 50% of our funding comes from foundations, about 25% from the printing industry, which in 2022, I want to really crank that up. So I've got a program called 5 + 50. I want to get 50 printing companies who will promise for 5 years to give us at least anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to $2,000. And then the other 25% is just from good people who care about what we're doing, and they're in all forms of industries, and they just love what we're doing, and they love the results that we're doing, and they just give us money for that reason.
Okay. I think those are all the questions that we have. We have one. Amanda?
So
The question is, what are your hours, and what was it?
So a printing museum is unique in that it's something that you don't sit around the table and go, I think I'll go to the printing museum. So our hours are by appointments. So, but we'll do a tour for one person. Matter of fact, with the COVID, that's worked out really well. We do tours for families. We do tours for small groups. Euler High School is 3 blocks from us, so when the COVID is over, we really hope to get involved with them, especially their art program, and having them work with woodcuts and so forth. But go on our website or go on Facebook, and you'll be able to contact us, and we'll be happy to set up a tour for you or for your group. And as long as I can do it, it's free. Everything's donated. Paper's donated, ink's donated. I don't take a salary. So my staff is the only thing I pay for, and we rent the building from Block.
Thank you for that response. The next question is, how do you find and engage young apprentices?
It's a struggle, and we somehow have to, and we as the printers are at fault for this. We really are. We've done a lousy job of promoting ourselves. And I think that had a lot to do with because back in the heydays of the 70s and 80s and 90s, we were making so much money, we didn't know what to do. I mean, money was just rolling in, and also at that time, high schools all had printing programs. Pretty much all the high schools have eliminated. When I started teaching at Cincinnati State, there were 50 high schools in this area teaching printing. Now there's only 2. So one of the things I hope to do is get not so much printing programs, but imaging programs, where they're creating things like printing electronics or creating things like huge posters. And these types of things, I think young people will get excited about and consider printing as a career choice. Working in the printing industry pays really well. And all companies has great benefits and so forth. Of those 3,400 students, I never heard one of them come to me and say, I made a bad decision. Okay? Matter of fact, in the second year, our students would say to me, why didn't I do this earlier? Because a lot of times our students were 28, 29, 30 years old. Why didn't I do that? I go, I know, why didn't you do this earlier? And we don't know.
Okay, next, C.J. Krebel just sold to a large consolidator. Are there any locally based printers here still?
Oh, yes. Like I said, we mail to over 800 printing establishments. When you think of printing, don't narrow your focus just paper. We're printing on metal, plastic, wood. Go into Walmart and stop and look around and count the number of packages. The packaging industry is going to grow by 25% in the next 5 years. 25% in the next 5 years. Amazon, look how many boxes they have been printed because of Amazon and the things we're doing. There isn't a salesman anymore, so the package is the salesperson. So printing is growing by leaps and bounds. If anybody would like to, I mean, I can give you a whole list of printing companies, but we're printing T-shirts, jackets, golf balls, printing electronics, wallpaper, Formica countertops are just press sheets, your flooring material, your wallpaper. That's all printing. Your life is surrounded by printing and you just don't even know it.
You touched on this a little bit earlier, but this question is, when do you think solar panels and phones will be printed?
I'm pretty positive the next iPhone, which is 14 if I remember right, that a good 10, 15% of that will be printed. And as time moves on, it'll eventually get up to as high as 80% of the phone will be printed on a printing press. Solar panels they're making right now. So in Australia is way ahead of us. Australia has a huge operation where they're printing on solar panels on film. So if you think about that, on film versus glass and metal is way cheaper. Okay, and in the future, so if you watched the movie Martians, I think, you know, where he's powering everything with solar power, that day is really going to come in our lifetime. You know, your car is just going to be a solar panel. Buildings, all glass buildings, just a solar panel, collecting all that energy for free.
So with that, what's your favorite typeface and why?
My colleagues will kill me for this one, but my favorite typeface is Time Romans, because I'm British descent. My family's from England, and Times Roman was the typeface used by the London Times, and I've loved it ever since.
The next question is, tell us about Block Ministries.
So, Dwight Young and his wife, 22 years ago, came into Price Hill and decided they were going to do everything they could to flip that community. And I'm happy to say Block has 27 different ministries in Price Hill, all doing things to improve that community. I'm just one of them. I am the Letterpress Museum. I also started the screen printing shop that we have, where we're hiring people. We have 2 coffee houses. We have something called the Redeem Homes, and these are where my ladies live during the day before they come to me to work. We have something called anchor houses, and these are houses where girls off the street can just come in and get a cup of coffee, clothing, whatever, and there are people who will counsel them and talk to them and talk about their lifestyle and try to convince them to get out of that lifestyle, and then move them into the Redeem Home, move them into my shop, and move them back into the industry as workers. One of the things I've been praying for is that a large printer would move into our area so that our people could actually walk to work, and that has happened. JBM Packaging just bought a big facility on Freeman Avenue. In about 2 years, they'll probably have 120 people working there, and my goal is that 80 of those people will be my people from the museum.
Well, thank you very much, Gary, and thank you for those on Zoom for your questions. And the last comment says Gary is a gifted instructor. Great presentation. President-elect Steve King gave that message. And there were so many questions coming in, I couldn't get to all of your names, but thank you so very much for your questions. And let's give Gary a round of applause. With that, Gary, I have just a brief presentation for you. It's a Service Above Self keychain that has the 4-way test on it. And again, we are so glad that you're a member of our club. And if any of you have any additional questions or would like to visit the museum, please feel free to contact Gary. We'll also make a donation in your honor for the eradication of polio to Rotary International. And thank you so very much again. Next week, again, we will have our last virtual meeting, and we sure are looking forward to that. Those of you who haven't been feeling well, we just pray and hope that everybody will be back to full restoration, bodies full of restored health. And we have one more virtual meeting, and that will be next week. Our speaker will be Sherry Hughes, again, former CPO, WCPO meteorologist, now Strategic Communications Engagement and spokesperson at Cincinnati Cancer Advisors. We're looking forward to that meeting, and so we will be in touch with you. Make sure you read your e-raise, and thanks to those of you who have contacted me for your transparency of things that are going on in your life. Please know that we're keeping all of you in our thoughts and prayers, and again, we look forward to seeing you back here next week for our last Zoom meeting, where we will be back in person February 3rd. Meeting adjourned.